Learning how to visualize effectively in order to manifest a desired outcome isn't always about being able to see a picture in your mind. For many, recalling memories of images within the mind is a simple task, but for some, they cannot see a picture in their mind no matter how hard they try. And here's why. We all tend to favor specific senses from our experiences of life and rely on those favored senses because they have become more developed. Visual imagery is simply not the more favored sense from the mind's point of view for everyone, and that's okay. Our other senses are just as important when manifesting intentionally. However, when using the law of attraction, just the thought of trying to visualize intensely may pose some frustration for those whose strongest sense is not visual. And the reason for this frustration is that visualization is noted as a key component in manifesting something that is wanted. But if you have aphantasia or even difficulty using your visual sense in a way that's clear and crisp within the mind, in just a minute I'm going to give you some really powerful pointers that will help you develop this skill so you can use it to create desired outcomes in your life. And yes, it is a skill that can be developed with practice and consistency. But first, here's the good news. Exploring experiences within the mind doesn't necessarily have to be visual. Our brains store information in many different ways through all of our physical senses. And each of these senses can be tapped into individually to pull up feeling states and sensations within the body that match an experience that once was or that will be. We each experience memories or our reference of experience in reality in different ways. We have separate circuits within our brains for things such as smell, taste, sound, and the sensation of touch. Visually, we store things such as specific shapes, patterns, sizes, depth perceptions, colors, and even motion. Through that recording, we pull up and understand, almost instantaneously, what we see in our outside world in any given moment. So from this fact, we know that that imagery information is in the brain and can be accessed. And when we access this information that's been stored away, including all of the sensory information, we can form an image, or at the very least a sense of an image, from our memory. For example, you can write letters on a piece of paper because your brain remembers the lines and curves necessary to do so. And once learned, you automatically move your hand in such a way as to create those letters based on the information and memories that have been filed away by your brain. In actuality, when you write something down, what you're doing is accessing an image, whether knowingly or not, and then your brain sends that message to your hand to create that image on paper at lightning speed. So we can go into the filing cabinet within our minds for any experience or object that we think of to access all of this information and form a sensation of a visualization, even if the actual visual doesn't come up. So the job here is to find out how you actually store that information and then re-access it. So let's use an example. Let's talk about dogs. What type of dog do you first think of when I tell you to think of a dog? What do you know about dogs? Do you know that a dog is a dog when you see one? Of course you do, because you have a memory stored in your mind that tells you that a dog is a dog. Can you describe a dog to another person? Most people can, because their memory, whether visual or otherwise, provides them information of what a dog may look like, smell like, feel like, and sound like. And for each person, their description of that is the representation stored away in their brain of that particular thing. If I asked you to use your imagination to create a scene in nature of your choosing, could you tell me what you hear in that scene? Are there birds chirping? Or maybe leaves rustling? Could you tell me the sensations on your skin? Do you feel warm or cold? Is there a breeze? Maybe there's a scent in the air, the fresh smell of pine trees, or maybe the aroma of salt air from the ocean. All of these senses combined create the sensation of a visualization, or the sensation of actually recreating the scene, which is what visualization is really all about. Now try something you'd like to manifest in your life, and think of this thing. You don't necessarily have to see it, but pull up a thought of it. If you want to manifest something specific in your life, it's because you can already think of it and what it will bring to your experience of reality. When you pull up the thought of it, what sensations and feeling states come to you? Can you describe those sensations and feeling states to another person? Are you tapping into senses of smell, touch, taste, or sound? And do one of these senses show up more prominently to you than the others? If so, really hone in on that sense to build the actual experience of being there. The point is, you can probably tap into the concept of most things, even if you can't actually see them in your mind. You do this through a multitude of different sensory perceptions and the memories that are stored away from those sensory perceptions. And it's those feeling states that create the necessary energetic component to manifest. So you don't have to be a strong visualizer in the sense of seeing a crisp and clear image. You simply only have to access your concept of what something means to you to create more of that in your life. Here are a few more powerful tips that you can use to develop the skill of stronger visualization as it relates to feeling your way into the desired result. Number 1, practice imagining a specific object of your choosing and describe it in detail. Describe the size, color, and any other visual components of that object from your stored away memory of it. Next, move into the other senses related to this object. Does it have a smell, a taste, a texture, or a sound? Write all of these things down on a piece of paper. The act of writing it down produces more memories for the brain to work with, and this will help you strengthen your actual visual imagery of creating the visualization in your mind. Number 2, journal your dreams. If you have vivid imagery from your dreams, or can even describe the sensations and experience of your dreams, write them down to enhance these scenes and what they represent to you from a feeling state point of view. Oftentimes, when we freshly have awoken from a dream, we have a sensation of something that's happened. Write these things down. Ask yourself, how did you sense the experience? Where do you feel it in your body? Did you hear things, feel things, see things, or touch things? How do you know that the experience within your mind took place? This will help you really tap into the areas that are the strongest for you when it comes to imagination, especially if the visual aspect is not what you connect with most. Number 3, enhance your visual memory. This is pretty simple to do. Just look at a picture of anything of your choosing, especially something you'd like to create in your life. Study this image in detail. Then put this image down or put it away and pull out a piece of paper and write down those details that you just saw and describe it as intensely as you can. If you imagined a sound or a texture or a smell or any other sense as you look at this picture, write all of that down on the piece of paper. It may be that your brain prefers these other senses when looking at the image. Keep referring back to the picture, putting it down, and then writing what comes to you. Do this until you know that you have stored the memory away of this thing. In doing so, your mind will easily be able to pull it up for reference anytime you choose to think of it or visualize about it. And number 4, this is a pretty important one, expose yourself to what you want to manifest. When we expose ourselves to the things we want to manifest most in our lives, we can collect more sensory detail about those things to store away in the memory bank portion of our minds. Imagining what you want is really great, but exposure can add that extra layer of sensory perception experience. From a visual standpoint, this can be as simple as watching videos about these things or reading books about them. You may even choose to do a little window shopping for a deeper and more detailed sensory-rich experience. Exposure increases your awareness of the experience, so your mind has more data and knowledge to work with when you choose to recall it at will. When we feel something on a deep level, we create a belief that that thing has actually taken place. And through those beliefs, the brain will see a problem in the form of a void. From the brain's point of view, if it happened internally, it must happen externally. To solve this problem, through the natural problem-solving process it works with, it will go to work to fill in that void. In other words, the feeling states established through visualization create a deep impact and the need to make it happen as a physical experience. Our brains use visualization to develop a roadmap for the attainment of our goals. But you don't have to make your visualization solely about an image. Feel the experience on every level as if it were real. Use practice to develop those sensations just through imagination. Believe it to be so, and it will become manifest.